Good evening. I'm going to call tonight's meeting for the Board and Zoning Appeals to order. My name is Wade Davis. I'm the chair. Before we get started, I'd like to thank all of you for attending, and be sure you sign in if you haven't already signed in back toward the back room. That's a permanent log of who is attending the meeting today. I'd also like to thank Debbie Stein and Eva Silvers for volunteering their time to join our board. We've been short-handed for a while, and it's been tough for us maybe to take a day off once in a while for a vacation, so that'll certainly help everybody, and welcome aboard and thank you.
Thank you.
Please be advised that the Board of Zoning Appeals acts as a quasi-judicial body hearing appeal matters and requests for code exceptions. Testimony will be accepted from all persons interested in speaking on an item. Persons interested in speaking will be asked to approach the lectern, state their name, address, and their interest in the matter at hand. All testimony shall be directed to the chair, be relative to the item of business being discussed, and be presented with conduct appropriate of this setting. Any person exhibiting behavior deemed inappropriate by the chairperson of this body will be ordered to leave the premises. Once all persons wishing to speak on the matter have spoken, the floor will be closed and the board will deliberate amongst themselves before taking final action on the item. The order of business will be as follows. The minutes of the previous meeting will be reviewed and acted upon. Old business will be conducted. New business will be conducted. Other business will be conducted. Then the meeting will be adjourned. The conduct of hearing for variance and appeal items, a modified Robert's Rules of Order will be used in hearing the items of business. The clerk will read the agenda item. Staff will comment and respond to questions from the board. The applicant will then comment and respond to questions from the board. The public will be given an opportunity to comment. The public comment will be closed. The board will deliberate on the item. During this time, the chair may request a witness to return to the lectern to respond to additional questions from the board. Upon hearing a motion, the board will stop discussions on the matter, and the chair will ask if there is a second. Hearing a motion and a second, the chair will ask the clerk to call the roll, and vote on the motion will be recorded. If there are no objections from anyone in attendance to the aforementioned meeting procedures, would everyone present please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn in? Let it be known that all persons present to provide testimony at this meeting today on March 26th of the Board and Zoning Appeals hereby swear to affirm said testimony will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth. All those in agreement, please say I do. All those opposed, please say opposed. Thank you. You may be seated. If any person indicates they are opposed to the conditions, I don't need to read it, I'm sorry. If you have not already recorded your name and address information in the guest sign-in book at the rear of the room, we ask that you please do so before exiting the meeting today. This information becomes part of the permanent record and documents who was in attendance at the meeting. Any questions? If not, we'll move on to our meeting agenda. The first order of business would be for the clerk to call roll.
Mr. Wade Davis.
Here.
Mr. Wayne Davey.
Here.
Mr. Eddie Harvey.
Here.
Miss Eva Silvers.
Here.
Miss Debbie Stein.
In our packet today, Emily has provided a copy of our meeting minutes from our last meeting. I know you two probably weren't there, so.
We read over them. We got them earlier.
Okay, good. So, if everybody's had a chance to review them, I didn't see any changes necessary. I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from February 27th.
So moved. Second.
So I have a motion from Eddie to approve the minutes and a second from Wayne. Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Ms. Stein,
Aye.
Ms. Silvers,
Aye.
Mr. Davy.
Aye.
So let the record show that the meetings of the February 27th meeting were approved. I don't believe we have any old business. If not, we will move on to new business. And Clerk, would you please read the first resolution?
Resolution BZA 2-24, a resolution to consider a variance for a driveway 214 East Main Street.
So I guess we have a staff report first.
So in this situation, the applicant is hoping to put a 24 by 32 detached garage in his rear structure. There's no issues with setbacks anywhere for the structure. However, does not have another access to get back to it. In the neighborhood, he only has 8 feet on the side of his home. And the reason for the variance is he's, by code, has to have 3 foot off the property line for a driveway. That's for all new. But in order to do this, to use the 8 feet, he'd be paving up to the property line, and this would be the way that he would access the driveway in the rear yard. Kind of looking throughout the neighborhood, and you should have had some pictures emailed to you of some other homes of similar. It's a fairly standard practice where a lot of driveways have shared property lines there. So I know in talking with the resident, and I'm sure they'll speak to it, the neighbors don't seem to have issue with what's being presented, and you know, contingent upon that, a lack of objection with the neighborhood, a recommended approval of the variance.
Thank you. Is the applicant in attendance? Would you like to approach the lectern, please?
My name's Randy Baker. This is my wife, Carla Baker. We own and live at 214 East Main Street. There is an existing driveway on the property that, and there actually was a driveway there. And due to aesthetics and stuff at the time, the driveway was in bad shape in the 90s. I took the concrete out and just actually put grass down there to maintain it, but we always used that as access to and from the property to get the back of it, and so did the neighbors. I have letters from 218, which is beside us, approving of it, 206 East Main Street and 224 East Main Street. I have them right here with me, so other than that, I don't know what else to say. So
Are you going from a gravel driveway to a concrete?
part of it, I think 46 feet back, there's gravel there that is there now. There's parts of the existing driveway underneath the grass that is in the first 46 feet of that property. So we would just be actually taking all that up and redoing it with concrete.
That's a nice improvement.
We think so.
I had an opportunity to drive over by like I normally do before our meetings and just check things out, and it certainly looks like to me it's a nice solid plan, and looks like it'll certainly spruce up the area a little bit. I don't have any other questions, Eva.
I live in that area and look forward to it.
Very nice
Thank you.
property. I think actually you got a Residence Pride Award, if I
Yes.
remember. Okay,
Yes.
yes.
So we're just trying to make it better and have more access to it, some off-street parking, a little bit more storage.
I did also forget to mention that there is already an existing drive approach that's there, so it's not necessarily cut it out. It's a bit of an oddball situation. It looks like it was set up for this initially and it just wasn't done, or was done and is just dilapidated.
Yeah, it was actually done. There was actually dual driveways, or our driveway went all the way to the back of the property, or at least past the two houses.
Okay. Thank you. If nobody else, does anybody else have anything to add from the audience? Thank you. You can give those to us and we'll make them part of the record. Thank you.
I move to approve Resolution BZA 2-24.
I'll second that.
So I have a motion to approve it and a second from Debbie and Eva. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Stein,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Ms. Silvers,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mr. Davy.
Aye.
So let the record show that Resolution BZA 2-24 has been approved. Congratulations, and good luck with the process. And I have some letters too to enter into with the minutes. So let's move on then to the next resolution, BZA 3-24. Clerk, would you please read the resolution?
A resolution to consider a variance at 902 Scott Drive for the overall development, including a 28-foot drive aisle for the parking lots, curbed islands every 10 parking spaces, and for the maximum required bicycle parking.
And so, and I know Chris is here to speak on this as well. On this development for what was the old Red Roof Inn, the intent is to demo the structure, and there's a development being proposed that consists of a higher tier hotel, a sit-down restaurant, and a quick-serve restaurant, all on the same site. In order to make a finite amount of groundwork for this development to satisfy parking requirements and make things as close to code as possible on an existing site, they've requested 3 variances to bring before here, and we thought proposing them all at once would probably give you guys a good idea, because these are fairly contingent upon being passed and being able to move forward with the development. The 3 variances is per code Piqua, there is a 28-foot maneuvering aisle between the parking lots necessary. The new code calls for curb parking islands every 10 spaces throughout the development, and they request a variance for the maximum required bicycle parking. And trying to bring this out a little bit one by one, on my recommendation for the maneuvering lane, I said something contingent upon the circuitous route of emergency vehicles. Obviously, it's going to be important to be able to get fire apparatus throughout the site, but in some cases, it may not be necessary to have the full 28. What's being proposed is between 26 and 30, but what this does, this variance would allow basically city officials to approve of where necessary to put those trucks in, and in other situations, go a little bit, in the interest of saving space, to go just a little bit lower than the 28. On the second, for the curb parking islands, kind of in that situation, the property is going to be split into 3 separate parcels. So it's not going to be one person that owns the entire lot. So the important thing with making the parking work for each site is if the restaurant, say in the sit-down restaurant, closes and sells, then another one would come in. That would need to be able to support itself rather than rely on the hotel parking or the quick serve parking. So each lot needs to act within itself. So the variance on the curbed islands, we put pedestrian access ways, which you can kind of see on the plans that were provided to you. The idea is still to be able to promote multimodal traffic throughout the site, but still accommodate what's there. So we have parking, we have access ways to get to all the sites, and we can get out to public infrastructure, being the sidewalk to the south, to be able to get up to the intersection. And then The third one for the maximum required bicycle parking, that's something we just implemented, and we call for like one bicycle parking space per 5,000 square feet, or whatever our code is. This is kind of one that we probably need to revise a little bit and talk, but there's not really a big interest in having bicycle parking at a hotel, if you know what I mean. So I think the intent is this would allow us the leeway to negotiate more what that's going to look like. It's obviously very important to us to provide bicycle infrastructure for the restaurant, for the quick serve restaurant, and even at the hotel. But what this allows us to do is to kind of make that determination later when we figure out what exactly that need is. We'll have the racks. It won't go unnoticed, but per code, we would be putting in a lot of bicycle parking for a hotel that's very likely not to require it. So it's, I call it a common sense thing, but I mean, that's up for interpretation. But on all three, and certainly if you have any more questions, I can answer them. And I know Chris is going to speak to it, but I recommended approval based upon what I just said on for all three.
On the bicycle parking, what would be the backup plan that, say we have a huge bicycle event like the Tour de Donut or something like that, or some of the river corridor biking, and a large number of bikes would happen to spend the night at the hotel? They would, convert just some of the car spaces or rope them off or something? Or?
Well, it could be done that way, but they're also, what they're talking about is providing bike racks. Double-sided bike racks as opposed to individual 2x6 spaces. The code calls for 2x6 spaces or a mechanism for locking both wheels to one of the sides. So bike racks can be put in, and like I said, we can always overcompensate on the two restaurants and not on the hotel. But I think the intent is not to sacrifice the parking for each individual, but we would make it work for the whole, as
Sure.
opposed to limiting each parcel with what is required per square footage.
Thank you.
I have a question. When they put the parking spaces in, do you know approximately how many of these will be ADA accessible for handicap?
I mean, they'll be per ADA code when they put in. I don't remember exactly what the number is, but whatever the ADA compliance is, that would be reviewed when
And then on the islands, will that also be ADA accessible?
they would have truncated domes to access the pedestrian walkways.
Okay.
So every time one of those hit the pavement going forward, there would be a truncated dome there that basically allows someone with obviously a visual disability to know that they're approaching an intersection or a crossing of some sort. And I don't want to, it's like where you're at in the development, it was contingent upon these things being approved to continue with further. So the plans would still go to Planning Commission at a later date and do this. They needed the allowances on here to make these things work. So the parking will still be per code. The ADA will be per, state requirements. We're just asking for these variances from City of Piqua code so that they can proceed.
Yeah, there's a general ADA handicap on one of the plans.
Okay, I didn't see
More about, I don't know about specifics about what you asked, but at least they got the general requirements here. How to stripe it and how to do it and things like that. I don't know about loading, but. With the distance of the throughways for like emergency vehicles, it's going down a little bit before. This is going to be a higher rise. I don't know if it's applicable now, but with this hotel being multi-level, is there enough clearance in there, even if it has to run over curbs and such, for like a ladder truck, or is the code just?
In theory, you put a turn template when you put the stuff together. So there shouldn't be a situation where they run over curbs.
Okay.
So there have been talks about development about how to access. We even talked about maybe a gate towards the very north end, which I don't know if that's still there. But we talked about fire apparatus is probably the biggest thing we talk about. And then also, what we call, a 68-foot wheelbase would be like a semi, like an overnight tractor trailer.
Okay.
Being able to navigate the site. And a lot of times, I'm a big stickler on that. Some people try to make them smaller, saying we don't get semis, but, you know, it might not be them, but it could be the next use that does. So everything we design, I want to be able, we can pull in that tractor trailer and get it right back out without, you know, too much of an issue. But that would cover the ladder truck. And I believe the hotel is slated for 4 stories is what's being spoken about. And the fire chief has been involved in all those meetings. So the water line design, fire loops, everything has been talked about and is currently ongoing that process as well.
Any other questions for Chad?
I don't have any.
If not, then if other staff would like to approach Chris to... Okay, then would the applicant please step forward and speak on the matter?
Good evening. My name is Jerry Royce. I'm with Basis Companies. And also with me tonight is David Parker. He's our project manager for this project. And we've been working with the city now for probably about 6 months. I've had several meetings. And I think the challenge sometimes of a site like this is the size. And when you have the type of users that we have, trying to get a site plan that works for everyone. And we've probably had 6 or 7 iterations of the site plan, and what you have before you is kind of the results of that. The users are Olive Garden, Hampton Inn, and also Chipotle. So each one of them, as you talk through some of the variances, they need certain parking requirements, otherwise they just won't, it doesn't work for them. As far as the bicycle rack, it was just presented well as far as, I think we're gonna adhere to the racks for Chipotle and also Olive Garden. It's just a variance on the hotel. I think staff did a great job of just explaining why we need it, why we need the variances. We're excited about this project. Our tenants are too. Again, after a lot of pushing and pulling, trying to figure out what works for everyone, this is kind of the results of that. So we're here to answer any questions for you. So with that, I'll just kind of sit back and
Well, first of all, thank you for choosing Piqua for this project. We appreciate it. Roughly, when is the project stated to start and be completed?
we're working hard on that as far as bringing this through zoning. We would like to try to break ground. We'd like to bring the existing hotel down at some point. We're working with the city on that. After that, we would prep the site for the 3 pads. Our plans would probably to start doing that in July or August, okay? And then finish the utility work and the site work by the end of the year. And then going into the winter time, you probably would see Chipotle and Olive Garden, the hotel, start the vertical construction probably first quarter of next year. That's the schedule we're working toward right now. So there's a lot of things that need to happen, but you know, we're pushing to make it happen. So.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I don't have one for the applicant, but I just wanted to make sure that notices went out to the adjacent businesses in that area. Were there any concerns? Any feedback?
So notifications get sent out with a 200-foot radius to the mailing address and the tax address. So those were mailed out, and there has been no feedback to my knowledge.
Additionally, that notice gets posted on our website, so when it does go out, it is open to the public for anybody to view.
Are there any plans to change the traffic pattern? You know, now you pull in and you get a little bit of a log jam sometimes there between Cracker Barrel and Speedway. And then going down to the front there, is there any plans there for the traffic pattern?
I think we're currently trying to come up with a solution. I mean, we feel that, yeah, it could be improved there, so there has been discussions about
Good.
What would be the best way to facilitate that?
Good. Any other questions for the applicant?
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in attendance that would like to speak on this matter? If not, we'll close the public comment portion and we'll deliberate. We've completed our discussion, and if there are no other comments or no one else wants to speak, then I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
So I have a motion by Eddie to approve the resolution. I have a second from Wayne. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Davy,
Aye.
Ms. Stein,
Aye.
Ms. Silvers.
Aye.
So I have, we'll state that the resolution BZA 3-24 has been approved. Congratulations and Godspeed on the development. So we'll move into our next resolution, Resolution BZA 4-24. Emily, would you please read the resolution?
A resolution to consider a variance for the size of a mural at 212 North Main Street.
Okay, on this one, I included my planning commission recommendation. I didn't rewrite one for the Board of Zoning Appeals. But essentially what's going on is on the Park National Building, there is being a mural that you have in front of you that's being proposed. When we instituted our new zoning last May, they put what used to be a downtown, I want to say, like an architectural review group, they rolled that into the Planning Commission for approval. So in doing so, they listed murals as being similar to a wall sign with a maximum square footage of 150 square feet. So not very big, and I think that's another thing, that's one of those things we found that we're probably going to try to readdress to give Planning Commission more leeway in approving the size. But as you can tell by the size is, it came in as 37 by 75. So it's substantially larger than what code allows it to be. The process this had to go to, they originally went to City Commission and received support. They went to Diversity Committee and received report, and they did this to basically let everyone know what was coming to try to gain feedback. When they came to Planning Commission, because we got the sizes back from the artist a little late, I recommended them to table it at Planning Commission, but still to present that to get feedback, which I think has been valuable, but then to come to Board of Zoning Appeals. So this is more just for the size. So this would be the appeal from this. If you were to approve the size of the mural, then it would go back to Planning Commission next month where they approve the actual content and what that is. I hope I laid that out okay.
Yes, thank you. What is the size of this one in relationship to the one down by the Keller Williams building that's already there? I think that's another mural downtown that's very comparable to this.
Probably Lorna needs to speak to that. I'm a new guy in Piqua.
Scale-wise, they look about the same size to me.
I'd say lengthwise,
5 years ago, and I have forgotten.
Shame on you, Laura.
Well, it's pretty substantial.
It is.
Bigger than
Yeah.
this.
The wall is larger, and you see how it drops down. Well, the one at Quincy gave us signs cannot go down that far because it's the awning and stuff.
Sure. Well, I think scale-wise, I mean, this wall can handle a lot larger mural than the other structure, where When I look at the other structure today and a couple other days, because it intrigued me, it just seems like to me, this one on this side of the building looks smaller than the other one because it's using up the entire side of the building. So,
And I will say, when we looked at it, I mean, we were consulted a little bit on the design, not so much, but, what's your thoughts on it? I like the point that it does not project above the roof line. It goes in there, and it's, as far as like the bottom of it, I think it's like 13 feet off of the ground. So it's not really, in the way of being vandalized, but it's a good spot for it. And I think the bank had talked about running their parking out another line. So if you think about it, like if you come this way on that picture and there's a full-size truck sitting right there, the height of that allows you to see it from where it's intended to be seen, if that makes sense at all, like the projection of what you're able to see. So it's nice, it's visible, it's in a very convenient location. I mean, we think it breathes a lot of life into downtown Piqua.
yeah, that entrance from the south side of 25A is just amazing, and when you come up that way and look at the building, that's the perfect place for it.
I think anything smaller would look off scale.
Especially on the side of that building. I agree, Debbie.
It's a big building, so.
And also because there are so many people in the mural, if you made it smaller, you really could not get the depiction of their faces as well
Right.
as you can now. That wall really was waiting for something like this.
I'm just happy also that we're honoring them, because a lot of times the legacy and history is somehow lost, so this will be a good memorial for the family. It really will.
Any other questions for the city staff? If not, we'll open up the lectern to the applicant. Applicants.
Lorna Swisher, former Executive Director of Main Street Piqua, 5409 South State Route 202.
My name is Ruth Kuhn. I'm a former board member of Main Street Piqua. I live at 1307 Park Avenue. Needless to say, Lorna and I are so excited about this, and every time we show it to any committee or just people in the community, they're as excited also. This is way overdue for this wonderful singing group. I do have, we kind of sketched this out because we needed to know the size of the building. The wall itself is almost 6,400 square feet. The mural itself is a little over 2,600 square feet. So it doesn't take up half of the wall. It's a little less than that. But, if we reduced it, what could we take out? I think the vinyl record and the record player, is wonderful. The artist is, Lorna, you come in and talk to. We found someone in Columbus who is just a wonderful artist who's done things at Ohio State Stadium all over the country. He has come to Piqua, taken a look at this, come up with this depiction that we wanted, and is very impressed with where it's located. I think the location of this is just really perfect. Park National could not have been more wonderful to work with also. I'll add that.
And actually, the mural did go a little further down, and it was a suggestion of Park National that we rise it up a little bit for the vandalism issue that Chad spoke about. So we've taken into account what the Park National folks, obviously we're using their wall, have also brought to the table.
So will Park National be the owner of the mural once it's done?
We'll be signing a contract with Park National. The mural belongs to Main Street, and we're doing it on their wall. And should something happen to the mural down the road, Main Street Piqua will take responsibility for the maintenance of that.
Okay. That's why I was wondering if it ever faded or something like that, 10 years from now that.
Well, it is
Of course,
gonna-
I'm
yeah.
sure
It is going to fade. It is a south-facing wall, which makes it particularly susceptible to fading. So that is going to happen. But hopefully, we have arranged for local contractor Bryan Brothers to put a treatment on that wall that will help maintain the look of the mural for longer. So we're hopeful that that will help us as well.
Good, good.
The great thing about this mural is it faces the south, the other one faces the north. So no matter how you're coming into Piqua, you're going to be able to see either one of these. And they are very professionally done, so we're very proud of that too.
Yeah.
What's the time frame for begin to end?
Well, we hope to get started maybe mid-May, late May. It'll take maybe about 6 to 8 weeks to complete, so maybe by the end of July, we might have something ready.
I thought maybe we might have it before the eclipse.
That would be speedy.
Only if we're using Crayolas, because that's not working.
I just would like to say thank you. Piqua is so rich in history and fundamental people who have came, things that have happened. So it's nice to see the community taking interest in where we come from and sharing that with the youth.
I think that's great, Eva, because we do have some heroes in our community. We have Don Gentili, we have a statue downtown. We have William Pittsburgher, we have a statue of him. And now we will have a recognition of the Mills brothers.
Yes.
Thank you for acknowledging that.
No problem. Thank you, ladies, for what you do.
If there's no other comments, we'll close the floor then to board deliberations. So we've completed our deliberations, and if there are no other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to adopt Resolution BZA 4-24.
I'll second that.
So I have a motion by Debbie to adopt Resolution BZA 4-24 and a second by Eva. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Stein?
Aye.
Ms. Silvers?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Davy?
Aye.
So let the record show that Resolution BZA 4-24 has been adopted, and Godspeed through the rest of the process, and good luck, and I look forward to seeing it. So moving on, if there's no other business or comments, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Just one.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Chad, this was a good packet this time, a really good packet with your recommendations and everything, which is good for our prep, obviously, and good for the record, too. So thank you very much.
Being that sometimes when it's a variance, I'm paid to enforce a code that the city adopted. So it doesn't really behoove me to say, don't worry about following this rule, but follow this one. So I really have to look at it from a wholesome point of view. And I think when we first started, I thought, well, it's obviously I'm going to say enforce the rule. You know what I mean? So when it is like a case violation where this is the rule and they're not doing the rule, I'm always going to have my guys' backs. You know what I mean? But I think when it gets into an actual project and, you know, subjectivity, we can still honor the intent of the rule and make sacrifices that, you know, work with the land. So it's my intent to always provide it. It's just when it's he said versus she said, by nature, I have to support my guys.
Thank you, Chad. I realize they won't always be like that.
Right.
Any other comments?
No. motion to adjourn.
I second.
So I have a motion to adjourn in a second. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, in attending, and have a great evening.